This Baldur's Gate 3 series covers how to do all major quests and missable content in order so that all achievements or trophies, choices, and major rewards will be available. We'll be striving to get the most optimal or good outcome for all companions, recruit the most allies, obtain all legendary weapons and armor, and have an overall satisfying playthrough. For best results, follow this series from the start of Part 1. Spoilers will be limited to important information, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. When last we left off, we had just taken our 4th long rest and then added Lae'zel to the party. As soon as we leave camp, Shadowheart will want to speak with us. She'll tell us about her goals, and we can respond with "thank you for sharing" to get some easy approval. After this, we can head to Auntie Ethel at the Druid Grove to pick up those elixirs of Hill Giant Strength, as well as a potion of invisibility if we don't already have one. We are going to use it to get a legendary greatsword for Lae'zel, and this is sort of an exploit, and I've decided that it is worth doing. Check the pinned comment for this video, as I will immediately update it if this exploit ever gets patched out of the game. Doing this exploit has both positives and negatives. Clearly the legendary greatsword is a positive, and it's perfect for Lae'zel. Also, the quest to get this sword the normal way can bug out, making the sword unobtainable. Doing this will prevent that from happening. Finally, by the time we can get this sword through normal means, we will likely already have a better sword and probably won't have Lae'zel in the party anymore. So in my opinion, this is her time to shine with it. The only real negatives are that doing this exploit may require a bit of safe scumming before success, but we can do some things to improve our odds. It also causes Lae'zel to have some new dialogue that normally doesn't become available until Act 3, which can be confusing, but we will avoid that dialogue interaction. All that said, doing this exploit won't lock us off from any major questlines, allies, or achievements. Now, if you don't want to do this exploit, you don't have to, and it won't meaningfully alter your playthrough. For everyone else, the first thing we'll need to do for this sword is have Lae'zel stay at camp. Don't worry, this is just until we get the sword. If we have her in the party when we do this, she will turn hostile. We will then want to go speak with Withers and recruit a hireling. We need a fighter, and at the time of making this video, it takes like half a minute for the game to leave the recruitment screen when you click Venture Forth, so just be patient. As a bonus, recruiting a hireling will give us the outsourcing achievement. When we go to level them up, we'll need to take the Battlemaster subclass with disarming attack as one of the maneuvers and precision attack as another. For the feat at level 4, we will want to get an ability score improvement and increase strength to 18 and dexterity to 14. Next, we'll travel to Joaquin's Rest and move a short distance west. We can speak with Elika nearby, but unfortunately there is no way to gain her as an ally. We will head down to the south side of the bridge and, after a cutscene, plan our attack, starting with saving the game. For anyone opting not to do this, you can go ahead and just confront the Githyanki head-on and skip to the next timestamp. Entering turn-based mode, we'll position everyone in a square formation. Next, we'll have Shadowheart cast Bless on the fighter and anyone else. We will also have the fighter use an elixir of Hill Giant Strength, and trust me, it's worth it. Finally, we should be able to throw a potion of invisibility at the center of our party, turning everyone invisible. Next, we'll exit turn-based mode, have everyone hide, and quickly move towards Kith'rak Voss, the one with the legendary sword, and then enter turn-based mode. Using precision attack should increase our chance to hit all the way up to 98%. All that's left to do is save, then hit Voss with a disarming attack. We should be able to see if Voss failed the saving throw against the disarming attack and dropped the legendary sword the moment before the dialogue encounter starts. If he doesn't drop it, we will need to load back to the previous save and try again. In theory, we should have right around a 25% chance of success. In practice, I got the sword to drop 7 times out of 23 attempts, which is around a 30% rate of success. This is a lot better than using Command Drop with Shadowheart, which only has a 9% chance of success, but seemed to be much less in practice. Once we see that the weapon has been dropped, we will immediately want to save the game. Believe it or not, we can actually peacefully get out of this fight and still earn all the associated XP as long as we pass a series of skill checks. We can start with any of the skill checks besides Sleight of Hand, and fighters have a special option to just bypass this first skill check. Next, we can say you'll need to start from the beginning and then follow it with an Arcana skill check. After succeeding there, we'll need to follow it with a Wisdom skill check. Finally, we'll go with the Intimidation option, and success in this will earn some approval from Shadowheart. Surprisingly, Lae'zel would also approve of this if she were here. The game might act a little buggy after the confrontation. The Githyanki will be hostile and start to attack, but should leave shortly after, granting us all the XP we would get for defeating them, while sparing our resources. If we made Voss drop his weapon, we can pick it up. The legendary silver sword of the Astral Plane is ours for the taking. Understandably, this weapon only reaches its full potential when wielded by a Githyanki. Fortunately, we have Lae'zel to fill that role. We can speak with and dismiss the hireling, then return to camp. Now here is the spoilery part related to the silver sword. When speaking to Lae'zel, we will have the option to talk to her about it. This dialogue option was intended for Act 3 of the game, so it probably won't make sense and can also lead to some pretty big spoilers. Because of that, we are best off avoiding that line of discussion for now. However, we can tell Lae'zel about the encounter with Kith'rak Voss, and then get her back in the party and equip her with the silver sword, bringing her damage per attack up considerably. There is one last thing to account for with this sequence skip of sorts. When we leave camp with Lae'zel, we do not want to speak with her as she will have a dialogue icon above her head. This is just about the silver sword, and we can turn it back to being an optional dialogue if we just return to camp and then leave once more. Okay, with all of that out of the way, we can also loot the nearby Flaming Fists for some sellable loot. We'll want to avoid going west for now, as that will trigger some story advancements that we are not yet ready for. Instead, we'll fast travel to the Blighted Village and move south-southeast. Here, we'll find Auntie Ethel arguing with two men. We can say, "How about you all just calm down," followed by Ethel, "What did you do to their sister?" to earn some approval with Karlach. Following this, we'll speak with Demir and Joel. Asking for more information, we'll get several new dialogue options. If we say, I'll bring Mayrina home," it will get us approval from Karlach, but disapproval from Lae'zel and Shadowheart. If we say, "You're on your own, I have enough problems," we will get approval from both Lae'zel and Shadowheart. Likewise, if we have access to the sorcerer-specific option, it can be followed by "Trust a more experienced soul, I'll find your sister," to get approval from Shadowheart and Lae'zel. Unfortunately, regardless of our choices, there is no saving these two brothers from their own recklessness. We'll move southwest to activate the fast travel point for this area. That being said, we won't actually want to confront Auntie Ethel at her tea house until after we reach level 5. A short distance in, we can attempt a skill check to reveal the true nature of this apparent paradise. Sorcerers will have the option to do an easier skill check, whereas non-arcane classes will have to settle for a DC 20 investigation check. The best part about succeeding here is that we will get a pretty funny interaction up ahead and can gain some approval out of it. Upon success, we will see that this is actually a swamp. Continuing west, we'll run into some Redcaps. We can speak with one and take a deep breath and say "Bah" to get some approval with Shadowheart and Karlach. We can actually repeat this interaction once more for even more approval. Moving further west, stay out of the water to avoid traps and the damage over time that results. If you do get hit by traps, a healing potion will stop the bleeding. At this point, my approval with Shadowheart is maxed out. Once our approval is maxed with a companion, we will no longer be notified if and when they approve of our actions. In any case, we can go ahead and take out the Redcaps. If we position well and gain surprise, the Redcaps will hardly have time to do anything before we are able to clean them up with Kith'rak and Lae'zel. A little further west, we'll activate the Riverside Tea House fast travel point and discover evidence of Demir's demise. We'll come back here once we've gotten a little stronger, and I'll take a moment to stress that we must conserve resources so that we have some key points on Kith'rak and Lae'zel's Soulbreaker ability at that time, which will be before our next long rest. For now, let's head east while doing our best to avoid stepping in deep water, which is full of traps. After jumping across some stones, we should arrive at a decrepit Druid sanctuary. We'll want to save here, and it's also a good idea to equip Kith'rak with the Ring of Flinging. Once again, we'll want to get surprise on the enemies here. The Mud Mephits are the biggest and most annoying threats, as they can summon additional Mephits. They also explode upon death, so we want to avoid melee if possible. Magic Missile definitely comes in handy here, helping us clean up the partially damaged and/or distant Mephits. Also, I'm planning on taking a short rest after this encounter, and so we'll be using resources that recharge on a short rest, such as key points, superiority dice, and channel divinity. After the encounter, we can take a short rest if needed, then loot one of the woodwoads to get a magic shield. In addition, we can find the sparkle hands in the nearby chest. I prefer to use these on Kith'rak over the Bracers of Defense, as they further increase her already amazing damage potential. Finally, we can loot and read the letter to Kagha stashed in a hidden wooden crevice, and this will progress the Investigate Kagha quest. Back at the Grove, we can use a Potion of Animal Speaking and talk to Timber the Squirrel for a fun interaction on our way to the Grove's sanctuary. Within the sanctuary, we will confront Kagha with the evidence we found, triggering a cutscene. During this, we'll want to say, "Take this letter, Wrath," it will explain everything. Afterwards, we'll have one of two choices, so you may want to wait and watch this next part before doing anything. For one outcome, we can use either Detect Thoughts or Persuasion to convince Kagha to mend her ways. If we do this, Kagha will fight with us against the Shadow Druids. If we make this choice, we can ultimately get the title or tag of Faithwarden, as well as the Pale Oak Rare Magic Staff. On the other hand, we can just fight Kagha, defeating her along with the Shadow Druids. This is the less noble outcome, but we can get the Broodmother's Revenge Necklace from Kagha, which is pretty good on martial characters and will only get better in late game. However, there is also what I would call a secret third outcome, where we get the necklace, staff, and title of Faithwarden. It will just cost us 200 gold if we are not already a druid. To do this, first we will need to convince Kagha to mend her ways and fight the Shadow Druids. Following this, we'll need to make sure Kagha dies during the combat encounter that ensues. Even if we are the ones that deal the final blow to Kagha, at least at the time of making this video, the other friendly druids don't seem to take notice or care. We can use a Potion of Speed to hasten the heavy hitters, making the task much easier. After Kagha is dead, we will want to loot the Broodmother's Revenge Necklace off of her during combat, then clean up the remaining enemies. Right after the fight, we'll need to go to Withers and change the class of our main character or avatar to Druid. Once we've done that, we can return to the Grove and speak with Wrath. In Kagha's absence, he will pronounce us Faithwarden and give us the Pale Oak Staff. Afterwards, we can return to Withers and change our class back from Druid and reapply our buffs. We'll want to make sure that we get back the same skill proficiencies that we had before the switch, and also raise our primary stat, which in the case of a sorcerer is Charisma, to 17. And trust me, this will make sense later on. Before we leave the Druid Grove, we can report the news to Zevlor, then agree to eliminate the Goblin threat. We will be rewarded with the Hellrider's Pride Gloves, which can be equipped on Shadowheart. We can also go up the nearby ladder, meet Lacrissa, and make a bet concerning the goblins. Speaking of goblins, it's about time we went to deal with them. After fast traveling to the Blighted Village, we'll head west. Across the bridge, we'll meet up with Saza, and she'll run ahead of us to talk to the goblins. As we turn north and head towards the Goblin Camp entrance, there will be a cutscene. Afterwards, we may need to diffuse tensions between Shadowheart and Lae'zel before heading into the Goblin Camp. Since we already have Shadowheart at max approval, we can briefly bring in Astarion here to get some approval with him, but it's not really necessary. There are several things we will want to do in the outer area of the Goblin Camp before moving to the interior. To start, Grat the Trader actually has some pretty nice items, such as the Returning Pike, Swarzy shoes, boots of aid and comfort, and gloves of archery. For now, I'm just going to sell him anything I wouldn't be sad about losing, with the plan to knock him out later. Next, we'll send Karlach a short distance away, then check on Volo. Saying, "Boo, get off the stage," will get us approval with Lae'zel and Astarion, but disapproval with Karlach if she's nearby. We can leave behind Astarion and Lae'zel, then find a group of goblin children around a body up to the east. If we speak to the goblin named 8 and ask him what the man did to deserve his treatment, we can follow it up with "sorry for your loss" to get some approval with Karlach. This will also get disapproval from both Astarion and Lae'zel if they are around. Afterwards, we can call everyone back and approach Crusher. To gain a nice amount of approval with everyone, we will say, "I don't just think so, it's a fact," followed by the intimidation check, "How about you kiss my feet instead?" And finally, "You better kiss my foot now." We can also get a really good ring here, and to do that, we'll follow Crusher out to the entrance bridge of the camp. Once completely outside, we'll hide and then take him out with a couple of punches. We can get Crusher's ring off the body, and in my opinion, this is one of the best rings for a martial class, as it gives an extra 10 feet of movement speed. Next, we'll return to the fast travel point and make our way up the ladders to a grassy plateau. We'll have to watch out for traps, but there is a locked chest we can open to get the glowing shield, which is pretty nice. We can then move northwest and dig up a chest, before entering hiding and jumping down a fair distance away from the sleeping bugbears. Speaking with Booyog Piddle to the south, we can get a funny interaction. After that, and given that we are eventually going to eliminate everyone out here, we can start by having Karlach sneakily punch all the goblins and bugbears up here. Next, we'll want to use a potion of animal speaking if we haven't already. Then go speak with Krolla near the camp's entrance, eventually telling her, "This is cruel, I won't be a part of it." After that, we'll want to speak with the Owlbear cub, telling it that we have a camp where it can stay. We can then speak with Krolla again and say, "I'm leaving and the Owlbear's coming with me." Following this, we'll need to succeed in an intimidation or persuasion check to guarantee the Owlbear's safety. At this point, we're going to go back to camp to swap Astarion out for Shadowheart. Our next goal is to get some XP by wiping out the goblins in the camp's exterior, get the Headband of Intellect from Lump, and get all of our stuff back from the trader, all while conserving resources. To do that, we will have everyone but Lae'zel move to the top area of the ruins. We'll make sure that Lae'zel has Lump's Warhorn along with plenty of mobility items equipped. Because she has the alert feat, she should also be going first in combat. It's a good idea to save here, then we can use her Githyanki Psionics jump, and with non-lethal toggled on, we will knock the traitor unconscious. At the start of combat, we can grab all of our stuff off the trader, use Lump's Warhorn, then jump up to the elevated area behind the trader. At this point, we can get into combat on our other characters. Kith'rak can do massive ranged damage by throwing the returning pike at enemies below her. As combat goes on, we can get Lae'zel back to the rest of the group and have her chip in with ranged bow attacks. We will eventually need to turn on Lump and the other ogres partway through the combat. Once Lump and everyone else is defeated, we can get the Headband of Intellect off him, and this will make Shadowheart's Firebolt cantrip more effective. Now we can enter the main temple, where Sazza will be waiting to introduce us. We'll catch up with her later, but we have some other tasks that need tending to first. To start, we'll go to the southwest corner and speak with Roah Moonglow. We can sell her a bunch of stuff to get gold and perhaps a set of chainmail +1 for Lae'zel. We'll also want to grab another potion of invisibility and save it for later. Afterwards, we can go ahead and save the game, then knock the trader out along with her fellow guards and the goblin that patrols this area. We just need to make sure that the goblin doesn't bang on the drum nearby, or we will be in a lot of trouble. Also, we really want to make sure that we don't kill Roah Moonglow or her guards, as she can return later in the game. Moving on, we can break down the door that the guards were in front of to get more explosive barrels along with gold from a nearby chest. In the room to the north is the entrance to the priestess quarters. After defeating the ogre standing guard, we can grab the Amulet of Misty Step from a chest in the southern room, which we will want to save for a specific encounter before our next long rest. Down the path to the east is a room with a puzzle. It can be solved by turning the stone discs so that all the dark circles are in the small circle of light on the southern disc. Solving the puzzle will open up a secret tunnel that leads to the Selenite outpost in the Underdark, which is pretty neat. We will be heading back to the Underdark soon enough, but for now, let's finish up in the Goblin Camp. In the southeast corner of the Shattered Sanctum, we'll find a prisoner being tortured. If we succeed in a high deception check, the guards will just leave. Then we can free and question the prisoner. A little further north, we'll find Abjurak and can engage in his services. We can get a great perk here if we put on a good show. For that, we will let Abjurak know that we are curious or interested, then face the wall. To get the perk, we can respond to the hits with either performance or intimidation checks. If we succeed on them all, we'll get the Loviatar's Love condition, which is permanent and provides bonuses at low health. After that, we can go find Volo one room over. We'll just need to convince Gribbo to leave, then open Volo's cage. In exchange for freeing him, Volo is willing to join our camp. Moving to the back of the southernmost room, we can lockpick a door to the treasure chamber, where we'll find several magic items, an infernal iron, and about 500 gold. To get a little more experience points, we can save, go to the west room of the Sanctum, defeat the nearby goblins, and free Brackle, a goblin that has not fallen for the Absolute. We will just need to make sure that we disarm the trap on the cage first. We can also go interact with Dror Ragzlin to the northeast, but it isn't necessary. If you do go for it, make sure to save beforehand, as the encounter can turn hostile. We will eventually make our way over to the northeast corner of the Sanctum, leave Lae'zel a bit back, and speak to Minthara. To get the She Cannot Be Caged achievement, we will need to save Sazza by saying she's telling the truth she didn't know. This will gain approval from Kith'rak and disapproval from Lae'zel if she's nearby. We will also get the Assassin's Touch magic dagger as a reward. We will then want to move Kith'rak a fair distance away before telling Minthara I'll get it done, as Kith'rak will severely disapprove of this if she is nearby when we say it. The only reason we are doing this is to eventually get the She Cannot Be Caged achievement, which means we cannot do anything to hurt Sazza. After Minthara leaves, we can hide and open the nearby gilded chest for the Water Sparker's boots. After reassuring Kith'rak that we have a plan to save the grove, we'll head east into the Warg Pens. Here, we'll defeat the goblins and free the bear from the prison cell. We need to make sure the goblin kids don't escape, as they will go alert the rest of the Goblin Camp. As it turns out, the bear is Halsin, leader of the Druid Grove, and after the fight, we can agree to rescue the grove. At this point, we should be level 5, and we get some major upgrades here. First, on Sorcerer, we definitely want to learn the Haste spell. Using it with the Twinned Spell meta magic, we can buff up both Kith'rak and Lae'zel for big fights. This will be even better now that Kith'rak and Lae'zel are both getting the extra attack feature. In addition, monks get the Stunning Strike attack at level 5, which is great for boss fights. Lae'zel will also be getting the Misty Step spell as a racial feature, and we will want to save this for a specific encounter before our next long rest. Finally, we are getting Spirit Guardians and Fireball on Shadowheart, both of which are incredible spells. Rescuing the grove will require a long rest first, so before doing that, let's use the rest of our resources to go take care of Auntie Ethel. Just southwest of the Riverside Tea House fast travel point is a Gur named Gandrel. For now, we'll make sure not to tell him where to find Astarion, which will gain some approval from Kith'rak. Further northwest is Auntie Ethel's tea house. We can leave Lae'zel a short distance back, then speak with Auntie Ethel. Before we say anything to her, we can hit the trade option and buy another 3 elixirs of Hill Giant Strength. We could get the Hag's Eye here through specific dialogue choices, which is a permanent condition, but in my opinion, the benefits are not worth the costs. So instead, we can refuse to apologize to Ethel, then say, "That's Mayrina, I have some bad news for her." And follow it up with, "Auntie Ethel killed your brothers." This will gain approval from Kith'rak and disapproval from Lae'zel if she's nearby. Our goal here, as usual, is to gain the most benefits possible, as well as save everyone we can, and this will require fulfilling a specific set of circumstances. Once the fight starts, we will want to damage the hag until she is at low health, then let her live and escape down into her lair on her turn. After scavenging for useful potions, we'll follow the hag into her lair. There is a gnarled wooden door within the first room. We'll need to persuade the door to open for us, at which point it will be revealed as nothing more than an illusion that we can walk through. The overgrown tunnel has multiple enemies in it, but they are really just brainwashed victims. Because of that, we can group up and throw down a potion of invisibility to turn us all invisible. We can then sneak past them and jump through a waterfall to the west, quickly moving further in to avoid detection. Next, we'll have to navigate a gauntlet of traps. The easiest way I found of doing this is to have everyone jump down to this first vine, group up, and then throw down a potion of Featherfall or cast it with a spell scroll. Either way, we can then have everyone jump down straight to the end of the traps, avoiding all of them. Once everyone is there, we can short rest if we have it available and then save the game. Again, we are going for the best outcome here, and that will require some sneaky tactics. First, we'll have Shadowheart, Lae'zel, and Kith'rak stay back and hidden. With just our main character, we'll enter the heart of the lair to confront the hag. In order for all of this to work smoothly, we'll need to be at the start of the turn order when combat begins. With a fairly high dexterity and the alert feat, that should be accomplished fairly consistently. Once that is done, we can save the game, then plan our next move. We'll equip Kith'rak with the Amulet of Misty Step and Lae'zel with the Silver Pendant. Keeping everyone hidden and separated, we can then position Shadowheart so that she is close enough to cast Guiding Bolt on Auntie Ethel, but still a fair distance back. We will now try to stun Auntie Ethel with both Kith'rak and Lae'zel. A potion of invisibility to turn them both invisible will reduce the chance of needing to save scum, but it isn't 100% necessary. Depending on where Auntie Ethel is looking, even Misty Step might not be necessary. Starting with Lae'zel, we'll sneak around Auntie Ethel to get within close distance, using Misty Step if necessary. We can then use the Soulbreaker attack to enter combat and hit the hag with it, regardless of our place in the turn order. If that fails to stun the hag, we can repeat the process with Kith'rak's Stunning Strike. Once we've successfully stunned the hag, we can cast Twinned Haste on both Lae'zel and Kith'rak. Our goal here is to severely damage but not kill the hag. We will also want to move both Kith'rak and Lae'zel just a few steps away from the hag at the end of their turns. A helpful bonus will be if we can also cast Guidance on our main character with Lae'zel. We want the hag to have around 20 HP or less at the start of her next turn, but the closer to 0 health, the better. We will also want to make sure that our main character is the closest one to the hag before her next turn. If the hag is damaged badly enough, she will try to bargain with us on her turn. The specific state we are trying to get to is where Shadowheart is not stuck in the conversation where the hag is bargaining and can instead act freely. We'll want to save once we've gotten that set of circumstances in case something goes wrong. Next, we'll speak with the hag, starting with what I want is Mayrina alive and free. We will then want to pass the intimidation check. If you want to live, hand over Mayrina and this power right now. Succeeding on this check will get us approval from both Kith'rak and Lae'zel. Right after succeeding, we will switch over to Shadowheart, quickly select the piece of hag hair that gives us our primary stat, for Sorcerer that is Charisma, and then eliminate Auntie Ethel with a Guiding Bolt. Once we've pulled off that crazy set of circumstances, we will definitely want to make a save, and probably consume the hag hair on our main character. Lae'zel may come on to us at this point if we speak with her, so long as we haven't spent an evening with anyone else yet, and it's up to us if we want to engage or not. Doing this will close off any potential romance with Shadowheart and possibly other companions, so it may be best to just not speak with Lae'zel for now, as we can always bring the subject up later. Speaking with Mayrina, we can question her decision making, but kindness is always a good way to go with these things. Mayrina will offer us her locket, and I'm not sure if taking it is a good or bad thing, but it's not really useful as a piece of equipment or for selling, so I told Mayrina to keep it. Going through the wooden door to the north, there are several things we will want to grab, including a Potion of Speed, the Ever-Seeing Eye, Bitter Divorce, and Staff of Crones. There are also more useful potions in the nearby wicker chest. Once ready, we can use the mushroom circle to return to the surface and head a short distance north to join Mayrina at her husband's coffin. If we tell Mayrina about the Bitter Divorce wand, we can then point it at the coffin to bring her husband back. Giving Mayrina the wand will earn some approval with Kith'rak and finish up Mayrina's quest in Act 1. We still have a couple loose ends to tie up here though. Returning to the hag's lair, we can speak with and free the few of her victims that are, for the most part, still mentally and physically intact, those being Ephraim the dwarf, Lauren the wood elf, and the halfling known as Mask of Regret. We can speak with the other Mask NPCs, but unfortunately they are all too far gone and cannot be saved. We can now return to camp and speak with Volo. If we allow him to examine us, he will start working on a possible cure for the tadpole and also give us the Blazer of Benevolence. If Gale has not already requested a third magic item, he should at this point, and I'm going to give him the Spider Step boots, which we won't have any more use for. Again, we'll say go on, you're among friends to earn some approval, and then eventually say we will continue on together. We're finally ready to first equip the silver pendant, then take a long rest. After a cutscene, we must pass either a persuasion or medicine check with Lae'zel in order to keep everyone alive. And this is where that silver pendant comes in handy, allowing us to cast guidance. This will be followed by another fairly important sequence, which I won't spoil, but play it however you want. There are no wrong choices to be made. And I'm also going to give a quick warning to wait on morning preparations after the long rest. The next morning, we can speak with Volo to get a useful upgrade. Doing so will result in disapproval from Lae'zel, Karlach, and Astarion, however. Fortunately, we can avoid that disapproval by getting them all in the party and having them leave camp while we undergo Volo's operation. At the end of it, we will get Volo's Ursat's Eye, which will slightly alter our appearance and permanently grant us see invisibility, which is extremely useful. As far as preparing for the day goes, this is going to be a pretty short one, only lasting for the battle at the Grove. Because of that, I'll only be using one Elixir of Hill Giant Strength on Karlach, and will not be using another on Lae'zel, nor will I be using a Soul Coin on Karlach. We can also bring a few barrels of explosives with us. Upon leaving camp, Shadowheart will want to share an important memory with us via Tadpole Connection. A successful passive religion check will result in additional information regarding the memory, but it is not critical that we succeed. Saying thank you for sharing that with me will earn us more approval if it isn't already maxed out. Arriving at the Druid Grove, we can warn Zevlor of the impending Goblin raid, and we will want to make sure we side with Zevlor. We can then plan for the attack by planting oil barrels and perhaps even a few smoke powder barrels at specific locations. It's in our best interest to save some smoke powder barrels for future use, although we should have plenty stocked up at this point. Out of all the tieflings, Arca is in the biggest danger here, so we will want to prepare Sanctuary on Shadowheart and position her next to Arca. Once ready, we can save, then interact with the Warhorn. When speaking to Minthara, we must say, no, this grove is under my protection. We will want to start the battle by setting off as many explosive barrels as possible, as well as having Shadowheart cast Sanctuary on Arca to prevent her from being killed by one of the spiders. After that, we can use everything we have to clean up the remaining attackers. Once the Goblin raiding party has been wiped out, Zevlor will give a speech and Halsin will return. Halsin will speak to us and we can inform Halsin of Korga's death and plan for what comes next. Also, at this point, we cannot go back to the Goblin Camp, as Sazza will be there and also hostile. For her associated achievement, we need to make sure that she stays alive. Next, we'll make sure to loot everything off of Minthara, then go to the Grove Sanctuary for our reward. Wrath will give us the Rune of the Wolf when spoken to, and we can go to the Northern Chambers to use it. We can also grab the Mind Flayer Parasite specimen while here and decide whether to open our mind to it, which will allow us to start upgrading our Illithid powers. Some of our companions will definitely disapprove of it, and we can always do it later. Back to the issue at hand, we can insert the rune we got into the empty socket, then activate all 4 runes to reveal a staircase to a hidden vault. Within the vault, we'll find the Robe of Summer, Sorrow, a rare magic glaive, and other useful supplies. Once we're ready for the Tiefling party, we can take our long rest. Here is where we can make all major romance scenes for Act 1 available, so long as we haven't yet fooled around with any of our companions. To do this, we will need to speak with our companions in a specific order, picking specific dialogue options, and equipping the silver pendant is a good idea too. We will need to start by speaking with Will, first saying, "Are you alright?" Followed by, "We have won this day, danger is for tomorrow." And then, "I want to dance with you," earning us some approval. Following this, we have the option to get the closest thing to an Act 1 romance scene with Will through a persuasion check, which will also get us more approval. Next, we'll speak with Gale, and start by saying, "I'm sure you're welcome," followed by, "I like the sound of magical, what do you have planned?" We can then go to Lae'zel and say, "You might still persuade me to share the night with you instead." Kith'rak is up next, and we'll just need to say, "I'd really like that." Astarion is the second to last, and we'll have to start with, "It's not that bad, think of all the goblins you killed." Following that, we will take his bottle and try the wine, and then say, "Knowing you, it probably is." To earn some approval, we can say, "Maybe," if you say "please." We will then need to pass a persuasion check and respond with, "Good boy." Last but not least, we can speak with Shadowheart and start with, "Refugees?" Followed by, "Are you worried Shar won't approve?" Then, "I'd be glad to," and "Maybe those plans could change for the right person," and finally, "I'll find you later once the camp's asleep." If you want to have all Act 1 romance scenes available on a single save, you can create a manual save here and label it accordingly. We can then speak with everyone else at the camp if we want. Once we decide to go to bed, we'll get to pick who it is that we want to spend the night with. For the purposes of this guide series and getting all achievements, I will be picking Kith'rak. The only choices we need to stay away from during the romance scene are those that imply we are not romantically interested in Kith'rak. Besides those, we can play it however we want. After the long rest, Halsin will speak to us, helping us plan our next steps. Saying, "I never thought I'd say this, but it sounds like the Underdark is the safer route," will get us approval with Shadowheart if it isn't already maxed out. We can then agree to Halsin joining the camp, which is necessary for a major quest down the road. We will indeed be heading back to the Underdark in part 5 of this series. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I'll do my best to help. If you want to watch part 5, you can find it over at my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Tuesday, and as always, thanks for watching.